Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. Unbelievable progress on our last run. It was out of control. And by progress, I mean it wasn't really progress, but you know, it was just really strong. You get the idea. They did say easy NL, and it was PVKHBL9Y. Stats could be worse. Let's focus on the positive here. The stats could be worse. 4 damage slightly compensates for 15 rate of fire. Yes. Hey, that's very good. Speed is a little low. Luck is high, but, you know, I'm here to tell you, I really think luck is like, it's a stat that, in my opinion, only really manifests its usefulness on the final floor. So, like, you know, I'm not gonna be like, well, our speed is bad, but our luck is high. So, you know, hey, one good thing, one bad thing, it means we're balanced, right? Not really. Luck is useless right now. Not literally, but like figuratively, you know what I mean. Anyway. Where am I going with this? I forgot. Maybe it's actually not that bad for a room like this, because with Mom's Eye, I think we do get a more frequent series of shots out of the back, but not as frequent as I would like. I just wanted to test it out real quickly there. Anyway, we're in a good spot, you know. We're in a decent spot, especially with the balls of steel. We're identifying a lot of pills. Hopefully we'll get some stats ups out of it, and if that is indeed the case, everything should turn out okay. At least we have every available chance for things to turn out okay. I mentioned, you know, I was talking about how the luck stat is not a lie, but perhaps its usefulness is overstated sometimes. It reminded me of like the end of a couple episodes ago where I was talking about recipes. I'm not shy about having pet theories that are obviously wrong, but use their wrongness to illustrate maybe a more nuanced thought that I have. You know, for example, the idea that food poisoning is not real. That's what people have latched onto, and I can't really dispute it because it is what I said. But I said that as the hook to get people invested in the idea that, hey, food poisoning is obviously real. Salmonella, E. coli, you know, trichomoniasis, or whatever the heck it's called. But I also think that a lot of people say they have food poisoning when actually they have a cold or are hungover, etc., etc. And I don't really care if it's unfair to the restaurant necessarily, unless you're putting them on blast. But you know, I just hate when people are like, I ate at this place, and then 12 hours later I had diarrhea, and I'm like, hey man, you might have been the, you know, you took a pee. You didn't wash your hands, and then you started eating, you know, Fritos out of the bag. Could just as easily be that, but you know, regardless, we don't need to get into this again. Food poisoning is real. I just think the armchair diagnoses of it I can't take with the same validity as if, you know, a doctor had diagnosed them. But so I'm gonna do exactly the same thing, and I'm gonna say you're not gonna like this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I've been cooking for, you know, 15 years, roughly. Maybe like 12. Not that it, 13. Not that it really matters that much, I guess, the specifics. But I'm gonna tell you something that I think the armchair. I'm not a professional cook, but I'm gonna tell you something I think that the food blogs and the recipe websites and your food networks and, you know, your blah blah blahs. I'm gonna tell you something I don't think they want you to know. Recipes are BS. Now, I want you to, that's the hook. Now we're gonna get into the more nuanced side of it. Recipes aren't BS. Hold on, let me caffeinate. We're about to go off on a little bit of a rant. However, needlessly specific recipes, in my opinion, give people a bloated idea of how difficult cooking actually is when, you know, obviously some dishes are difficult to cook, and to cook, you know, any dish perfectly requires, you know, a varying degree of expertise and experience. However, cooking delicious food is largely actually pretty easy and comes down to just a series of steps, you know, and largely it's not, hey, throw in 1/8 of a tablespoon of garam masala. So I wanted to, you know, talk about the fact that I had made stew the other day. It's delicious. And the recipe for the stew was... you don't need a recipe for the stew, but sometimes I'll just, I'll peep a recipe for some inspiration, just to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. The recipe for this stew went insane. It was like, can you tolerate sulfites? If so, please put some tamari soy sauce, which is just a special, type of soy sauce into the dish. And I was like, dude, that's like way too fussy. And it was like a single pinch of fresh thyme straight from the garden. I was like, man, I can't do that. I live in the city, man. And it got me thinking about this, so many recipes. It depends what you're making. But there's varying importance, Let's say you're cooking a piece of meat. Sure, a spice rub or something like that, it might help you out. But there's really, like, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs for steak, I think, is so simple that it's not difficult to understand. You don't have to be an expert to cook a delicious steak. Step one, you want a, quality cut of meat. If you want cheap steak, that's fine, dude. I love a cheap, well-done steak as much as the next guy. Just something... I can't believe we didn't get hit there. Something primal about cutting into, like, a $3 steak that tastes like shoe leather, but just, like, slathering it with A1 sauce. I got nothing against that, dude. When I go to my parents' house, my dad, he grew up not necessarily under the most refined tastes in, like, the 70s and 80s. That's how he likes his steak. If he's grilling steaks, he gets really, really good steaks, and he grills the Christ out of them and slathers them with steak sauce. So I've grown up with a little bit of fondness for that as well, although it's not my ideal by any stretch of the imagination. I think we will go for it because we got the extra HP coming anyway. This is a really good get for us, for sure. And I will go to the item room. We probably will not be able to access the shop. I know a lot of people are, they have high standards about it. Oh, that's ruining a great cut of steak. Yes. I mean, in a culinary sense, if you did that in a restaurant, there's grounds for, like, public execution. But, like, if you're buying the steak with your money, you can eat it however you want. I don't care. Anyway. But, let's say you're getting a good cut of steak. You're getting a New York strip or... a top sirloin or something like that, or a ribeye. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was talking to Mr. Warren Buffett. Oh, hello, Mr. Gates. How's curing malaria and being a billionaire going for you, Mr. Buying his ribeye? Oh, it's Wednesday night. I guess if you never bought steak, ribeye is an expensive cut, but it's extremely delicious. Anyway, it's like cut of meat. You want a hot pan? You want to put some fat in the pan? You want to season it? Everything else is just not overkill necessarily, but unnecessary. I was not frustrated. I was a little... sad is not the right word. There's got to be a word in there. But when Austin was talking about how he got, like, Blue Apron, and he was using that to learn how to cook, but it mind-flooded him because it would say things like, season with salt and pepper. And he would be like, I don't know how much salt and pepper to use. Do you use a pinch? Do you use a kilogram? Do you use a cup? Now, the pea-brain option there is to make fun of Austin for not understanding that seasoned with salt and pepper basically means, to your heart's content, but probably somewhere around a pinch. But here's the thing, my 11th grade psychology teacher, he told me something that has stuck with me to this day. Common sense is neither common nor sensical, is always learned. I know that seasoned with salt and pepper means, it depends on what you're making. If you're making something delicate, you're not going to toss as much in. But if you're making a steak, you're going to make sure that that's got a nice crystalline look on the outside of it. But that's only because I've done it before and because I've, read stuff about it online. I've watched food-based media, since I was 17 or 18 years old, which is honestly kind of a late start. The galaxy brain is to actually be mad that it doesn't say, nobody at any point has indicated to this young man that, seasoned with salt and pepper doesn't actually mean, like, you know, you need a specific measurement for it. That's why I feel like people who don't cook, they have a great excuse, because everybody that can cook makes it seem like it's this eldritch skill that, you know, you can't, you're born with it. Oh, you know, she's a great, well, she was born into a large Italian family, so she can cook. I can't cook. You can cook, it's easy, man. Honestly, like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm the greatest chef of all time. Definitely not, but, you know, to make food that's at least good enough is not that hard. And, I mean, it'll save you a staggering amount of money. What it will not save you is time. And that's the thing, you know, it's usually faster. It's almost always faster to just order in. And I'll give you that. There's a convenience factor there. Plus, you don't have to do the dishes. You can just throw all of your garbage into a landfill and then tweet about the polar ice caps melting later. However, it's just nice to cook a meal at home, you know? That stew that I made is warming up in the Instant Pot right now. Get a nice little you know, energy efficient lunch coming for me after this. I'm here to tell you, and I say at least like once a month I go off on this exact tangent. If you're going to college, you know, this August, this September, or maybe, you know, you're moving out on your own, or you're, you know, maybe you're just looking for a hobby or something like that. Learn to cook some simple, basic meals if you can't already. I promise you're going to enjoy it. You're going to invite people over. You're going to be like, we got Delmonico's on the grill. It's easy. If you can learn how to, and it's different, I mean, you know, you got to take dietary restrictions and habits into account, of course. But, you know, if you can learn how to make like a soup, a stew, like a pasta dish, which again that's probably the touchiest of all of them so far. A steak and then like a couple of sides. You can eat like kings. Maybe you want to make something like a fried rice as well, you know? There's so many of these amazing meals that produce a lot of leftovers and are not hard to cook at all. 48-hour. Now, if you know, you've been watching these cooking shows, you're like, what about beef Wellington? Okay, Mr. Ambitious, you might want to hold off on the beef Wellington for a bit. That's a little bit on the trickier side. I don't think anyone would dispute that. Dude, so it's been like, by the way, first off, let's talk about Isaac. How's the run going? We haven't really talked about it in a while. The run is good, and this is not more important, but this is more representative. It's not amazing, but it's like exactly good enough to never have to talk about it, but we're definitely not quite in like guaranteed win territory, but I would say that we're not necessarily far off. Like this deal with the devil, especially after getting goat head, could change a lot for us. Incubus definitely makes our damage way better than it looks. Here's something I will say, okay? I do think there is a place for services like Blue Apron, HelloFresh, you know, all these meal prep services, basically. What place is that? I think, and I'm being sincere, I mean, I've only used the one, okay? So I'm not going to say every service suffers from the same problem. I think if you're if you're bored with the stuff that you're cooking at home and don't really mind the idea of, you know, spending, I mean, let's say you got 3 Blue Apron meals coming a week. If you don't really mind the idea of spending 45 minutes 3 times a week to cook dinner for you and your family, and you're a little, not a ton, but a little culinarily adventurous, so, you know, if a meal goes wrong, you're not gonna, you know, it's not gonna hit your mood for like a couple of days, you know, you can always just get McDonald's, you know what I mean? Let's try this on for size, see how it works. I think there's a place for it, but I'm definitely not in that place. Like, we canceled our meal prep service probably like 2 or 3 months ago after using it for like 2 years. And I gotta tell you, I'm in love. Not having to cook those meals and instead cooking what I want. Oh man, so much easier. They're trying to I mean, here's the thing. If they gave you a bag with ingredients and they're like, hey, you're making, you know, beef stew. I imagine a lot of people would probably look at that and be like, why am I getting this? I could just buy the ingredients for beef stew myself. Fair enough. I mean, that's kind of like... Let me put it this way. That's an unenlightened, bad faith way of arguing against any service. Literally, like... You know, okay, yes, so why am I buying the meal prep service? I could just go to the grocery store and get this stuff myself, yeah. Why ever order pizza delivery? I could just drive to the pizza shop myself. You know, there's almost always a better way, a cheaper way to do things. It's really just a question of how much you're willing to pay for convenience. But the problem very quickly became that the meals were complicated to justify their existence, and thus all of the convenience disappeared completely. You look at one of these meals and it would be like, hold on. Oh my god. This is an incredible turn for us there. You'd look at one of these meals and it'd be like, okay, you're making smoked poblano chilaquiles. Step 1. Put the corn flour in a mixing bowl with cold water. Let it, you know, work it until it makes a flimsy, slimy paste, and then let it rise in the fridge for 15 minutes. You're like, oh my god, dude. It's 9 p.m. We're not going to eat till 2. But I think it's overkill. I don't think it's the right way to learn how to cook. Honestly, you learn how to cook... I don't want to be overly simplistic, but so many people are like, I don't know how to cook at all. I just eat, you know, fast food 5 times a week. I'm like, this, you know, if you... I mean, I knew people in college that they, like, ordered pizza at least 3 or 4 times a week. You can live your life like that for a while, for sure. I'm not going to say it's going to kill you. I'm not trying to, you know, force you to do something that you don't want to do, but... I'm just here to tell you, you can save a lot of money and have a lot of fun, and it's not that complicated. You learn how to cook like a couple of different meats, you know. It doesn't. You don't have to know how to cook all beefs, you know. You just learn how to cook steak and learn how to use beef to make a stew, you know. That's a ton of meals right there. And then you just vary it. Anyway, I've been lost in the sauce for a while here. What are we doing on this run? I got a little too preachy, but I just got lost in the conversation. I apologize. It's Monday today. I got no problem with Monday. I like, actually, to be honest with you, I like a Monday. Mondays, I'm doing this workout program. It's called 531. Boring but big. Look, they all have dumb names, okay? I'm being 100% sincere with you. So much of workout culture is like about positivity and consistency and, you know, responsibility, but then it's undermined, if only slightly, by the fact that it's a boring but big, jacked and tan. You know, like the names are insanity. I'm not saying the names are insane. I'm saying literally some of them are called insanity. P90X. I guess you know, workout branding is a science I know nothing about. But it came highly recommended. I've been doing it for like 3 months, seen good progress. But it's a 4-day workout. I only got 3 days in the gym, so I double up on Mondays. It's a busy day. I'm always a little, you know, exhausted by the end of it, but also feel good that I probably knocked out 1.5 workouts instead of 2. So I'm cheating the system a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but it's a good way to start the day. It's also nice to start the day with like a 20-minute Isaac run, which is what happened in our last episode. So I got no complaints professionally right now, for sure. I don't know if it's been, well, I think it's an open secret, let's put it that way. But Austin did an incredible, generous thing, and he got invited to a Twitch Rivals tournament for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And he's done, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 of them. Usually he does them with Justin, which is completely fair, and there's no hard feelings about that. Justin's not only a great guy, but also amazing at PUBG. And if you're actually competing for money, he's probably the guy you want on your team, right? But Austin, and I want to be clear, this is he didn't have to do this. He's probably sacrificing a little bit out of his pocket in order to make it happen. It's a squad-based PUBG Twitch Rivals, and he invited Team Unity to do it with them. So in a couple of weeks, we got a real esports tournament, which is always fun to be a part of because it's kind of ridiculous but also hilarious. So I mean, I'm not really practicing because I'm of the opinion that probably at this point it's too late for me to reverse course with PUBG, and moreover, I don't really want to subject my audience to, you know, 15 or 20 hours of me sucking at PUBG when I could be playing stuff that they find more enjoyable. But I'm really excited for the Twitch Rivals. So that's like Wednesday at like 2 p.m. Pacific time, Wednesday, August 7th. I mean, it depends when this video goes out, I guess, but this will go out with more than a few days' notice for sure. I'm excited for that. And again, I want to be clear that, like, it's big ups to my friend Austin for basically, and it's not me thanking him as much. Like, yes, by being invited, we will probably make some prize money. Maybe not a substantial amount, because you wouldn't expect Team Unity to perform necessarily that well, but who knows? Anything can happen, I suppose, although it's kind of unlikely. Hold on, where are we at here? Relax? Sure, I'll take relax. Just let me out. But also, like, the community should be really thankful to Austin, because I think it's gonna make for some fun content. You know, he very easily could have just been like, hey, Justin, you know, hey, other people that are really good at PUBG, come join me for this. Instead, he thought, you know what? I bet people would love to see Team Unity compete in an actual esports tournament despite the occasional dysfunction that we have. And as a result, he deserves your thanks. Because he's thinking about you, perhaps to a certain extent of his own financial detriment. Let me go. I don't want any of these trash items. So big ups to Austin for that. And for everybody else in Unity for moving their schedules around to make it work. You know, in particular Dan, honestly. But, you know, everybody's busy. But me, Malf, and Austin are full-time Twitch, YouTube, etc., etc. So it's not impossible for us to move stuff around, although sometimes it is tough. And I'm not even being facetious. Like, you know, we have to do that on occasion. Like, really, like, if I have to run an errand on a weekday and it's not like Tuesday before the stream, it throws off at least like a day or two of work. Like, I gotta figure out the knock-on effect is honestly embarrassing, but sometimes it's gotta be done. But anyway, for Dan, you know, he works a lot on YouTube and Twitch. Like, I think people are sleeping on Dan's work ethic to some extent. Dan has his own business that is full-time. He streams 4 days a week with you know, it's not the most hours streamed on Twitch. He's not doing 12-hour streams, but the production value is out of control, which takes up a lot of time in your off hours. And then on top of that, he has a family. He has 2 young kids, and he volunteers. Well, I don't know if it's volunteer work, but either way, he coaches high school, or I think it's high school level football. He works on the coaching staff at like a place that's actually like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a feeder school for like football powerhouses in college. So like, I don't know, as soon as I think about it, I get a lot of credit for working a lot, and you know, I do, and I think really for me it's more about like consistency. You know, I've been doing this for so long. It's kind of stunning. Not every week, you know, some weeks are more work than others, for sure. But to do it for as long as I have is somewhat impressive for sure. And speaks to the value of building good habits, I suppose. But even I look at, like, Dan's schedule, and I'm like, man, this guy is... He's burning the candle at both ends. He's got a boundless energy, I think is the best way to describe it. Now, also, I said people are sleeping on him, but not really. I wouldn't... He's not blowing up like Ninja, but he's getting a nice, consistent growth. Not like, you know, medically speaking on his, you know, body and his tissue. I mean, like, on YouTube and Twitch. And I couldn't be more stoked, to be honest. My man makes an amazing product. I still don't think we want any of these items, unfortunately. I'm looking for that, you know, that wow moment to push me over the top. But we have not had it yet. Like, really, I think you gotta hand it to Dan. He is not a full-time YouTuber, and yet he's one of the only YouTubers I know releasing 1 or 2 videos literally every single day on his channel. It's like him, me, and Mathis. It's the old guard left that are still, like, you know, using the platform the way that we were using it, you know, a few years ago. Ah. Anyway. Maybe I've been a little bit too nice in this episode. After all those negative things I said about relationships with huge age gaps in the previous episode, I'm making myself look too sympathetic now. People are like, I don't know what to believe. I do think back, you know, not to the previous episode, but to something I was saying in the previous episode about how backwards the area, like, Malf and I grew up in was. I don't want to say backwards, because I know I just said it, but, like, that's insulting to the people who live there. You know, they're real human beings, you know, they're raising their families, blah, blah, blah. They're working hard, no doubt about it. But there was, you know, just weird hillbilly stuff is really what it comes down to. Sometimes, you know, I'm very heptapotish about it. I'm like, man, I can't believe I grew up there. How did I grow up there? And then I moved when I was like 14, and a year later I was like, well, I love Wes Anderson films. Like, I don't know what kind of culture injection happened to me, but I really appreciate it. I was always kind of the, I don't want to say tag along, I don't think that's correct, but I was kind of a, you know, square peg out there in a round hole. They'd be like, hey, you want to go dirt biking? And I'd be like, I don't own a dirt bike, but I guess, like, I'll stand on the grass while you guys dirt bike, that'll be cool. Back in the old gravel hills. I'm surprised that was so unusual. You guys, you haven't lived in a place where some people, I mean, where I lived, everybody had like one of 3 things on their front lawn. Either an enormous pile of gravel, the reasons for which I still don't fully understand. Wood for sale, that's a very common thing out there, is like you drive by somebody's house and they'd be like, hey, we got firewood for sale. Or lots of cars. And, you know, if you wanted like the Thanos of having cars parked on your front lawn, find the house that has an old school bus parked on their front lawn. You know, back then, it was as a kid, it was so mysterious. You're like, where did this school bus come from? As an adult, I totally get it. It was like, hey, Tommy's selling an old school bus for 750 bucks. 750 bucks, I could convert that into, you know, a house for, you know, and then it just sits there. I get it. I own an HTC Vive. I understand. Buying things you think you're going to have a use for and then finding out you don't really. Anyway. Dude, I'm getting a little, not nervous, but I have to focus a little bit more. This run is, it has not popped off in the way that I would have expected. especially given the existence of Incubus and the existence of Goathead. I really would have thought by now we'd have a little bit more gas, but we definitely do not. We're still at not a bad rate of fire, but you know, Hemolacria has compromised our rate of fire to give us more burst damage, I suppose. It's really our actual damage that's got me it's got me sweating a bit right now. And I don't really know what we're gonna do with Black Room. Like, this is the worst secret room of all time. Not even a shortcut. Unless that's the boss room directly above. No, it doesn't work like that. You can't have a secret room adjacent to a boss room. I'm just like, I'm thinking, you know, Black Rune, we probably want to save that until the chest now. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, Krampus's head is not, we got a lot of not bad stuff to pretty great stuff. I mean, we have Sackhead, which by itself is almost capable of carrying you to victory. But we are lacking kind of like the extra hurting power that I would love to see right now. Hopefully, we can get there. I don't think this is actually like a dangerous run. I think it's just a little dangerous. One of the best ways, and you know, growing up where I grew up, it wasn't like I was under, you know, stress at all times. You know, it was not a necessarily an amazing place to grow. It wasn't like growing up in New York City, you know, where I imagine, depending on your means, you're like, oh, let's go, hey, the new Scorsese movie's premiering tonight at NYU's film school. You want to go check it out? For me, it was like, hey, Garden State's playing in Ottawa. You want to go drive for 2 hours just to go see the new Zach Braff movie? But you know, it wasn't necessarily all bad. And moreover, I think it, you know, provided me with a little bit of the unique character that I have right now. Either way, I think if you want to know where Malf and I grew up, I really think that the best piece of media is the 2004 mockumentary Fubar. I grew up knowing probably about 6 Deans and 3 or 4 Terrys would be my guess. And maybe 1 or 2 Trons, but like, we don't need to speak about that. They're mostly in the system right now. Please. Well, fine. I'll do it myself. Even the pills, like, they're not bad, but they're just not. They're not as good as I would like them to be. I think we are in a decent position in the sense that, well, actually, we're not really in that good of a position. Now that I look at it, like, we got to be really careful about our HP. But and for once, can I say, like, if I have any negativity about this run right now, if I have any resentment in my heart regarding this Isaac run, it largely just boils down to the fact that I willingly avoided, that hurts, taking so many deals with the devil because I was worried about them compromising our HP, and yet later, we still had compromised HP. What gives, Edmund? I said no to like 9 middling deals with the devil. You owe me either good items or HP. I know that sounds entitled because it like literally definitely is, but come on, man. Very, very bad use of Krampus's head. But even though you look at this and you go 5 HP, that's pretty dangerous, and it is. We also have we got a couple of things really working out in our favor. And the irony is not lost on me. One of them is Boneheart. So that's a little bit more than 1 HP. In fact, I would say it's worth maybe a lot more than 1 HP. Then another thing is that our luck stat, which we were so callous in our hand-waving of how useless it was in the early game, is actually going to be amazing for us once we get down to the chest. Or at least it has the chance to be amazing for us once we get down to the chest. I want the battery. And that's pretty solid. You're not going to believe me because we have Incubus, BFF, you know, Sackboy. But we actually, my gut feeling about this run is that we've had a pretty terrible stretch of luck. Tons of red chests open with no guppy items. Tons of golden chests open with no items. We haven't found a solid opportunity to use Black Rune. I mean, we have not picked up... We picked up 1 item. 2 items, sorry. We picked up 2 items since the mom fight. That's not necessarily atypical, I guess, but when you combine it with the fact that we're also, like, you know, we weren't in an amazing spot at the mom fight, and we're, you know, pretty slow to get to this point to begin with, it starts to weigh on you just a little bit. Combine that with the fact that I have had just an unbelievable urge to use the bathroom. Number 1, not number 2. But an unbelievable urge to use the bathroom for about the past, at least 8 or 9 minutes. And, you know, I think really we pretty much deserve a Nobel Prize for our performance thus far. There's a lot, it's really like a physical challenge in addition to a mental one, is the way I would describe it without a single sense of irony. So the dice shard is also kind of interesting, but, you know, we've stuck with Black Rune this far. Sunk cost fallacy, or sunk cost genius. Speaking of physical and mental challenges, you guys catch the... Look, I know, Fortnite, haha. So, no, I didn't watch the Fortnite World Championship. I'm 6 years old. Haha, or I'm not 6 years old. Whatever. You get the... I get it. People are dismissive about Fortnite. Because they don't want to identify with the target demo of Fortnite. That's fine, you know. Again, enjoy your Nobel Prize. This year's Nobel Prize goes to people who don't like Fortnite, and people who have never seen an episode of Game of Thrones, and people who don't like Chernobyl because it's not 100% historically accurate. Congratulations. We're giving out 1.8 billion Nobel Prizes. I don't know why I said we're, like I'm a part of the committee, but... Regardless, I don't really care how you feel about Fortnite, to be honest, except to say that, like, you know, just being negative about something is not cool and is, like, a real easy attitude to have. And honestly, I think Fortnite is a pretty, don't lose that Boneheart, brother. The game is well run, regardless of how you feel about Epic, which I won't even get into. But this cynicism existed before the Epic Game Store was aggressive, for sure. But how crazy is it? I know a lot of people are talking about it, but how crazy is it that because of the Fortnite World Championship, a couple of 19-year-olds made like $4 million each, and a 13-year-old kid made like 1.2 million or 900,000 or something like that? That's crazy, man. And I want to be clear, is crazy awesome? If you look at that and you say, oh, where's society at? What are you talking about? You're the boomer. Congratulations, you just hit boomer status. Hold on, D-Infinity with the D12. We want this. I don't really care about Common Cold. I want the stats. It's helpful. And D-Infinity should be a nice installation here. Here's the thing, you know? It's economics. Fortnite makes a ton of money. The event was like the most watched esport event of all time. So here's your possibilities, okay? Either the talent involved gets the lion's share of the money, which in my opinion is the way it should be, or the big company gets the most of the money. Which one do you want it to be? I guess is the way that I approach this. Hold on, we can see the map now. I would say the boss is most likely... Oh my god, you've done me an incredible service today. I think the boss is this way, actually, though. I don't think it's a sign of injustice in our society that... I mean, basically like a young athlete making $1 million. I don't think that's... I mean, that's been happening in sports forever. Now, nobody looks at it in sports, I think, and goes, you know, nice. But still, this is not the way I meant to go. We might as well, at this point. But, you know, again, the alternative is that, you know, Epic themselves pull even more money out of it, which I think most people would probably agree is not the way that they would rather things go. So, honestly, good for them. And if you take this as like, well, you know, I should really start playing Fortnite, you are a dummy. Those kids would smoke you. I mean that sincerely. You know, like 40 million people tried to be in the Fortnite World Cup. 40 million! And you're talking about, these are like the top 3. I don't even take it as like, some people, in my opinion, they get a little bit too, gamers, you know, we have a chip on our shoulder sometimes, you know? I get it, like, if you grew up in the 70s and 80s where maybe people made fun of you for playing video games. To be honest, I would make fun of you for playing video games too, because, you know, here's my impression of the average video game back then. I mean, come on, dude. There's no Slay the Spire. I'm just being facetious. But, you know, now it's like, you know, people have tears in their eyes and they're like, thank you for legitimizing my hobby. And I'm like, that's a little too much as well. But simultaneously, I'm happy for the kids, honest. A little bit jealous, obviously. It's the same thing with Dota, you know? Like, 17-year-old kids have been making like $1 million at the International for almost a decade now. It's the same series of complicated emotions, where I'm like, good for them. Also, this is cool for the industry, but also, I wish I was born in 1995. I'm being very facetious there, because if I, you know, maybe a little bit easier to make it in Dota, probably a lot harder to make it on YouTube, you know? I thank Susan every day I got in near the ground floor of YouTube gaming, dude. Ain't nobody coming to the platform anymore to watch a 1,000-part series on The Binding of Isaac when Netflix exists. If you're watching right now, I thank you greatly. But I've also tricked you. I've tricked you into watching. There's so much better content out there. Netflix, Amazon Prime, HBO Go, you know, soon Disney Plus, Markiplier. But, you know, you're already here, and for that I appreciate. I'm not telling you to go, I'm begging you to stay. I'm just saying we're both we're complicit in this ruse together. We both bought into the shared lie that what I say is insightful. And I work hard every day to make sure that I don't start actually believing that. Which I think some YouTubers could probably, they could take a little lesson from that. But I digress, especially as we get closer to the end of the episode. We don't need to get into that. He's done it. That was an episode that's tighter than it looked like it should be. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, though, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!